Imagine you're a city in the South and you need to build more public transit, but you have $0 to build it. The state isn't giving you money, the federal government isn't giving you money, you got no money to build public transit. What are you gonna do? Well, I have the solution, and it's right there. Okay, well, hear me out. It's called Bus Rapid Transit, and Atlanta's building a new Rapid A MARTA line through downtown right now. And there it is. This new transit line, called the Rapid A MARTA line, will start in downtown near the 5 Point subway station, and then go south through the Summerhill neighborhood, and then end at the southern end at the Atlanta Beltline. And if you don't know what the Beltline is, it's an extremely popular walking and biking trail that has tons of businesses and apartments all along it. Atlanta's transit agency is unique because it's the only major transit system in the country that doesn't get any state-level funding. That means the Georgia state government doesn't give a dime to MARTA. And the federal government isn't helping out that much more either. For MARTA's 2024 budget, only 12% of their funding came from the federal government. The remaining 88% came from transit tickets, city sales taxes, paid parking at suburban subway stations, and leasing transit agency property for private businesses. This includes TV show filming, billboards, etc. So saying Atlanta has $0 for public transit is a slight exaggeration on my end. But what is accurate is that they get very little outside funding to create these public transit projects. And if you're a small to medium-sized city in the South, you're probably in a very similar situation. Because MARTA doesn't get any state-level support, the subway system has been the exact same size with the exact same number of stations since they first opened in 1979. And the need for better transit has never been greater. Countless highway expansion projects have failed to reduce traffic congestion in the urban core, and expanding public transit was always destined to happen at some point. After Atlanta voters approved a city vote to add a half-cent sales tax to fund public transit, MARTA began looking for new projects to help meet this growing demand. And with basically no outside money helping them, they turned to an affordable option called Bus Rapid Transit. So what is BRT? Well, BRT stands for Bus Rapid Transit. It's designed to be as fast as a subway, but at the same cost as a regular bus line. It often includes dedicated lanes for buses to travel on, larger bendy buses that can transport more people, and signal priority at intersections. It also includes larger bus stops with more amenities and screens at each bus stop that show live updates for when the next bus will arrive. So a broader philosophical question: why is the city of Atlanta wanting to tear up two perfectly good lanes of road and make them bus only? Some people might walk around and go, "Oh my God, the mayor is gonna force me to ride the bus. The mayor is gonna make me have to not get out of my car, force me to ride the bus." Chill out. We're not gonna force you to take the bus, or at least the city of Atlanta is not trying to. The reason cities do transit projects like this is they acknowledge that maybe 5, maybe 10 years down the road, there's going to be a lot more traffic in that area. There's going to be a lot more businesses, a lot more housing, and a lot more stuff that people are going to flock to the area for. So from a simple transit and traffic perspective, it makes more sense, and they're able to move more people by dedicating half the lanes to public transit buses, bendy buses that can move a lot of people, instead of only having 4 regular car lanes. Once this transit line is complete, it's expected to move over 2,000 people per day, or about 840,000 people per year. As I was filming around the Summerhill neighborhood for this mini documentary, I got a chance to look at some of these bus stops as they're being created. And to be honest with you, they're way larger than I anticipated. The reason these bus stops are so big is because they need to accommodate these extra large bendy buses. Here's a video of me walking the full distance of one of these bus stops, and it actually takes about a good minute or so. And here's a picture of what these bus stops will look like once they're finally created. And here's some footage of a nearby sports stadium that's going to be directly on this transit line. In order to film this video, I parked at the Summerhill Publix, and I've walked essentially the full distance of the bus rapid transit route. And as I've walked around, I've really gotten a good sense as to why they're putting this new rapid transit route here specifically. There's a lot of gentle density. The Summerhill neighborhood is mostly single-family homes, some duplexes and triplexes with smaller yards, and all the houses are fairly close together. There's a lot of small shops and restaurants within that neighborhood. Along the route, there's a whole stadium, there's a grocery store, there's several apartment buildings closer to downtown, and then right at the far end of the bus rapid transit route is the downtown core of Atlanta. So you have all of these really interesting things all in one direct line radiating from downtown. So I think it makes perfect sense why they're putting this route here specifically. So how much is this transit line expected to cost? Well, when they initially quoted it, it was expected to cost about $58 million for the 5-mile round trip. But since then, due to unforeseen delays, the project is expected to cost about $123 million. That means it'll cost about $24 million per mile. Now, compare that to the toll lane highway expansion project happening north of Atlanta, which is expected to cost about $287 million per mile, with costs expected to rise in the future. For further comparison, the highway project is expected to save drivers about 15 minutes in their round trip. The BRT project is expected to save about 45 minutes of walking from the southernmost end of the transit line to the northernmost end. They originally wanted this project done by the 2026 World Cup, but due to unforeseen circumstances, they delayed the project multiple times. Pause. Quick note from the editing room. Howdy. It's Elijah from the editing room. As I was editing this mini documentary, the transit agency announced that they would be completing this project before the World Cup, greatly accelerating their construction timeline. This project will be done just in time for a huge influx of people visiting the city and needing to get around. However, I'm still going to leave in all of the original reasons this project was initially delayed, because I think it's important to know why infrastructure projects like this might go over budget or over time. But keep in mind, this project is going to be done before the World Cup, which is a very pleasant surprise for everybody. Back to the video. These delays included finding water lines in places the city said that there weren't water lines, and finding things like underground parking garages that no one had claimed for decades, and large amounts of horse bones that they found that they had to do archaeological excavations on. Will this project be successful? I have no idea. I'm just a hungover person on the side of the road talking into a camera. But I do think it has all the hallmarks for a successful transit project. The bus lanes are dedicated, so that means that there aren't going to be cars in those lanes, ideally. The bus stops are on the side of the road instead of the middle of the road, so pedestrians have adequate access to that transit stop. They're going to be running frequent service that connects the Atlanta Beltline at the south end of the line with the existing subway service in downtown, and they're building it in an area that has a lot of development. I think all of these things together are going to make the project potentially pretty successful. However, only time will tell. If you live in a small to medium-sized city in the South and you have no money for public transit, here are the steps I would recommend to get something like this started. The first thing will be to find a corridor, aka a road, that has a lot of interesting stuff on it. A lot of people live on there. There's a lot of business on there. Find a corridor that has a lot of stuff on it, that is being underserved and has a lot of traffic. Step 2, start talking to people who live in that corridor. Maybe you already live along that road yourself, and start talking to people about how maybe we need public transit to help alleviate some of this traffic congestion. Third step, try to get some elected officials involved. Get them talking, get them interested, show them that there is a need for public transit along this road, and show them that maybe there's a cost-effective way to do it with things like bus rapid transit. Next step, try to figure out some way to get dedicated funding to public transit. Either that could include having the city council allocate more of their budget towards public transit, or doing some sort of sales tax that funds public transit specifically. And finally, after you've done that, have a local planning commission or something like that do some sort of study about the feasibility of the transit in your area. If your city is worth its salt, they've probably already done some kind of transit study like that. One of the main reasons transit studies like this would be important is because it will provide fact-based research about which corridors in your city are most suitable for BRT. Also, these can provide cost estimates for how much a project like this would cost the city. And if you do all of those things, you could get some decent public transit in your city with little money. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the video. Peace out.